All right, fantastic. Welcome. Come on in. All right.
Put a camera on you so they can see. Do you want to use my Zoom as well?
Yeah.
We'll get that ready for you.
All right. So you can hear me all clearly?
Yes,
if you stand there.
Okay. All right. I'll start just briefly again. Look, just to welcome everybody. It's a partnership between La Trobe University and WiCyS, Women in Cybersecurity Australian affiliate as well. So my name's Leanne Ngo. I'm an associate professor within La Trobe, looking after the online programs, looking at the micro-credentials and short courses, but as well as building up the cybersecurity suite of offerings that we have. And I lead the Women's in Cyber program within La Trobe as well. So welcome to our co-design workshop in designing human factors in cybersecurity with industry and academic thought leaders as well. But on this note, I'll also like to pass it on to Anita as well to give a bit of introduction to WiCyS as well, if that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leanne. So welcome, everybody. I think most of the people on this call know who WiCyS are. I'm not sure about yourself, Kirsten, but WiCyS is Women in Cybersecurity. We're part of the Australian affiliate that was established in 2020. We are part of a wider organisation that's headquartered in the United States. And we have over almost, I think, 65 affiliates across the globe. So I guess some of the key objectives that our affiliate focuses on is to actually uplift the capability of women and young girls with regards to cybersecurity. We focus on establishing relationships with partners and universities to be able to do that. So welcome to everyone. We'll be able to distribute some more information around membership. A couple of key events that are upcoming very quickly. In August, we will be having a recruiter talk to us about certain types of resume building capabilities. And then, of course, we have our inaugural event as part of CyberCon in October, of which all our members receive a free gold pass, which enables them to free access to all of the talks and events at the 3-day conference. So that's a golden opportunity if you're an actual member. Thank you. Over to you, Leanne.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for that. All right. All right, just before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge of country. So La Trobe University acknowledges that this event and our participants are located across the globe and online and face-to-face as well. So we want to acknowledge that. For me at the moment, you know, I reside on the Bunurong lands of our custodian countries as well. So we want to pay our respects to our Indigenous elders past and present, and also those emerging, and extend this respect to others who are of Indigenous participants as well joining us here today. Okay, I'm going to be walking up and down because the, yeah, if you can, that would be great. Yeah, okay, you can do that. Thanks, Jane. All right, so today it's a co-design session. So essentially, La Trobe University. So at the moment, it doesn't matter which university you're in, whether you're in academia, TAFE, etc., in the education sector or industry. It is crucial that we have partnerships and collaboration, because the area of cybersecurity, we need to be working together in collaboration and partnership as well if we are looking at to decrease the cyber skills shortage as well, and to look at meeting, you know, our Australian government's target of being the most secure country by 2030. So today's session, what I want to do is talk a bit about human factors in cybersecurity, and I appreciate and I respect, you know, there are a variety of skill levels within this room, and, you know, not one person is, you know, knows everything in this room, and we are open to feedback, to discussions, your ideas, your experiences, your questions as well in this room. What we want to do also is work in groups. So we have participants online as well, which Anita will be facilitating online. And we have myself and Jane down here as well. We want to look at co-designing some job-ready skills in the knowledge area. What are the type of knowledge areas that we need? And what are the transferable job skills that we actually need from people within Australia to look at the aspects of human factors in cybersecurity. So we want to spend around 20 minutes on that and then regroup to come back and share your discussions and findings as well. So we'll hear from people online, and we will also hear from people face-to-face here at La Trobe. And at the end, the last few minutes, we want to wrap up and also look at next steps as well. What are some opportunities for further collaboration in this space? Now, for me, I lead a subject called Human Factors in Cybersecurity at La Trobe, and it is quite a growing, it's a new area, and it's a growing area as well across universities and TAFE, and also in the industry as well. So this session will give us some highlights, some trends into that space in terms of what is actually relevant, what do we actually need to develop in our students, in our professionals in this space. So I'm not just talking about masters or undergraduate programs, talking about short courses and micro-credentials, or even industry who may be training their staff members in this space as well. So we'll open up to further discussion. Thanks for that. Yeah. So we have roughly 5 objectives for this workshop. So, and I mentioned earlier, the collaboration and partnership. We can't work alone as an academia, education institute. And I believe it's the same thing with industry as well in that purpose. You would be looking to recruit high caliber students at the end as well, or your current staff members or employees, you would want to be upskilling them or reskilling them at the same time. Or you could be an individual wanting to move into the cybersecurity space as well, because it is a booming industry as well. And we need people from different disciplines, not just people in IT and tech, but we need people from different disciplines in that space. Yes, we need to look at different industry insights in the area of what is actually the key risk, key issues. And the key focus on this is, what are these job-ready skills? What do we actually need from our individuals, our staff members, our people to be ready? And also the other key thing is, because we're from education in a sense, what kind of assessment, what kind of learning activities do we actually need to embed into our courses, into our subjects to actually help industry, help Australia within the cyber skills space? And then 5th, really to look at, what can we do moving forward in this working together? Thanks, Jane. All right. So just to give a bit of context, I'll probably talk a few minutes in this space, and I'm open to questions and feedback as well. So essentially, just to give them the context within Australia. All right, so our government has set an ambitious target. By 2023, we're going to be the most secure country. This is 7 years away. It's a massive, ambitious target, but I've got a positive mindset, I've got a very positive mindset. And to be honest, I haven't worked on any project or initiative that hasn't failed, but, I think everyone in Australia, whether you're, a resident, whether you're, in business, in corporation, in industry, across everywhere, everyone has a role to play. So within Australia, I believe looking at these key aspects, there's quite a lot of aspects that needs to be looked at. Obviously, there needs to be some policy and governance change as well. So the Australian government has put together a national cybersecurity strategy, and they are working through it at the moment, and they're very open. So it's led by Claire O'Neill, our Honourable Claire O'Neill, at the moment with the Minister of Cybersecurity. It's the first appointment to the role, and she's putting together an ambitious plan, ambitious team as well, with partnerships in that space. And a national cybersecurity coordinator has just recently been appointed as well to look after our national cybersecurity. There's definitely a national team, as I said, that's being put in development at the moment to look at rolling this out. And there's a strong focus on public and private sector partnerships as well. The partnerships collaboration is absolutely key. And then obviously there are policies and laws and the regulatory frameworks that are being updated, being reviewed at the moment. And the Privacy Act, no doubt, is looking at that. Our Attorney General is leading that aspect in that space as well. So at the same time, our critical infrastructures, we need to strengthen that. We've got key areas in this space, so there's a lot of focus on that. Again, back on partnerships, so an international panel has been put together, partnerships across the world as well. We don't know everything, you know, in Australia, but we are starting to get there, and we can learn from other countries as well. And countries can also learn from us at the same time. So we've got a key partner within the UK in that space. Cybersecurity technologies, yes, of course. So there is already a huge investment in terms of strengthening the technologies, our systems that are in place, and also the workforce. And this is where universities and education institutions can play a huge area in this. So just to give you an example, La Trobe University, I think a year and a half ago, we won a multi-million-dollar grant from the government as well to look at helping to upskill our individuals. So we're creating short courses, micro-credentials that are 2 weeks to 4 weeks. And we've got a cyber suite of programs, but that's not to say other universities are doing that. And we're saying that if all universities in Australia did all that, that's still not enough to actually support our Australian workforce in this space. So that's why we need this strong partnership in this. And obviously the last part, looking at cybersecurity awareness and education. And this is another area of passion of mine as well. I believe, yes, it is extremely important that we focus on industry. But for me, I've lived in Australia. I came to Australia as a refugee 40 years ago, and I really appreciate the opportunity, the freedom, the security, Australia provides. And I had a chance to, take some professional break a year ago, and I was helping the community. And straight after COVID, the digital divide has just, quadrupled, I wouldn't say quadruple, probably 100 times, enlarged the digital divide. And you can see, like before the Medicare and Optus breaches, I could count more than 50 family and friends who have been impacted some way with scams, etc. And I got back into this space to look at what we can do to build cyber resilience in our communities as well, our vulnerable communities, non-for-profits in that space. So for me, I'm engaging with communities. I want to know what industry is doing. So that's why I'm passionate about human factors in cybersecurity. So the awareness part is absolutely important. It goes across everywhere, and there's more work that we can do in this space as well. Thanks, Jane. All right, I'll have some, there's definitely some stats in this place. These stats are, it's nothing new, and these are only ones that's been surveyed and recorded, all right? And you can expect that it could be quadrupled, right, in this space as well. Millions, billions of dollars are being lost. And we know that humans are the weakest link of everything we do. And I've seen stats and reports done by industry and research organizations, and some are as high as 95%. Some of the breaches are pretty much caused by humans and human errors. The fact that we are humans, we are not perfect creatures, we are not perfect, etc. We're irrational creatures as well. We have to make 2 billion decisions all the time as well. So we are humans at the end of the day, but there is also importance of that, our diversity in humans. We are all different. I think in the last few years, there's, so WiCyS as well, big organization, the Australian Women's Security Network as well. And there's quite a lot of other associations in place looking at embracing the diversity of our individuals as well, not just gender, but neurodiverse communities as well, our cultural communities, and also people from different disciplines as well. We need everybody involved if we wanted to look at supporting our secure country. So definitely the human element is of importance. Next one, Jane. All right, just a bit more in this space, and the human factors in cybersecurity, you can categorize it in 2 main kind of individuals. You can either be the victim side of it as well, and there are many different types of categories for victims in that aspect. And also on the other side, the actual attackers, and then in the attacker side, there's obviously different types of groups. But in human factors in cybersecurity, in that space, I think it's important to look at understanding that kind of criminal theories that are in play, and maybe the motivations behind the cybercrime business models that they actually go into place as well. And I think as individuals, whether you're a student or whether you're working in industry, it is important to understand the various types of categories in this space and why people do things, and the various type of victims and categories to look at that. Next one, Jane. Okay. Human factors at the moment, there are many different types of key factors. I like to break it up into 5 areas. They're definitely looking at the psychological area, which is one of the key factors in terms of the way that we think our mental health and well-being, our personal traits, our motivation, our emotions, and cognitive levels as well. So it is definitely a key area in the human factor side, because you need to understand how humans work. The sociological side, the anthropological side is important in terms of our human, how race as well, and how we work within a society as well, and how we interact. The financial side of things, and also the economic side of things as well, we need to think and look at in that space. And this is a lovely quote by Jeff Hancock. He's a professor in Stanford University. And this quote, and I'll let you read that. This is one too, like you've seen it so many times. This is such a common thing that you see in organizations at the same space. There are so many examples in this, threats and these breaches as well. And these are things here that these attackers really go at it at the human element to who we are as well. And it's such a difficult thing. And you think about it, our communities, our vulnerable communities, where the digital divide is huge. Second, where maybe English is not their first language, and they're not used to gadgets and technologies. It's a tricky situation that we're in at the moment. Thanks, Jane. Okay, what I want to do, and this is where you're here at, and I respect all your experiences, your skill levels in this space. The activity that I want to get into at the moment, working with everyone, is we want to spend 10 minutes. The key thing is we're looking at not just students, but individuals, who are wanting to get into this cybersecurity space with a focus of human factors in cybersecurity. This first key activity, we want to know what are the types of job-ready skills. So there are 2 focuses. One is looking at knowledge. What do they actually need to know? All right. And if you were looking at wanting to teach this or to learn this, what kind of activities would we need to develop, need to offer students or individuals to help develop these skills? And then the third one is, all right, once we develop that, how do we know that this individual has achieved competency or mastery of this in this space? So that's the first element. The second activity is looking at transferable skills. So transferable skills being, teamwork, communication skills, etc. But this one, I want to spend just 10 minutes on this. What are some knowledge, job-ready skills do we need in individuals? And what have you seen in your organization? So with your team members, your organizations out there, and that's okay. And I'm going to stop there. We'll spend 10 minutes. And the next one, it's the same approach, 10 minutes as well on the transferable skills. And what we want to do is come back and just have a debrief and really just share our discussions. And I believe that's the part that we're really keen on hearing as well. That's okay. Do we have any questions? Any comments? Anita, on your end?
No questions, and we can see the slide on the screen. That's fantastic. So, Leanne, we're just going to have our conversation, and we can put our thoughts in the chat. That'll be much easier for us.
Thank you.
Okay,
all right. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to mute you, Anita, online, and we'll come back if that's okay. All right. Thank you.
Need to just wait for our attention, Anita, because we'll put you on mute.
No worries.
And we'll do the same.
Okay. Kirsten, good morning. Good morning, Patrick and Jayant.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Hey, good to see you guys. All right.
Morning, guys.
Let's see if we can get this going in 10 minutes.
Via the city loop.
So we've got someone who's on the train. That's exciting. It must be you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on.
That's okay. I hope you get there safely. We just want to make sure that you can provide some input. All right. Well, just based on what Leanne said around co-designing knowledge, job-ready skills, in cybersecurity. What are people's thoughts around types of knowledge that we should be looking at with regards to the human factors in cybersecurity? I'll start with yourself, Patrick.
Oh, actually, can I ask a quick question? Jane mentioned before that she's teaching human factors in cybersecurity. Is that CSE to HUM?
It was not Jane, it's Leanne.
Sorry, Leanne. Apologies.
Leanne, would you like to respond to that question? Is it CSM, CSE
CSE to HUM? Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get her to respond in the chat.
Because I feel like I'm cheating, because if that's the case, I wrote that subject in 20 minutes. So
that's a bit of an honour to have you with us, Patrick.
Exactly, because I'm looking at this and like, oh, I remember doing this for the course design. Okay. All right. So job ready skills in terms of knowledge. All right. So I've always typically thought about it as skills. So are we willing and able to blend or to blur the line between skills and knowledge in the context, for example, of self-awareness, i.e. the ability to recognize, I mean, it's a skill, but it's also knowledge, i.e. human, we have, for example, the ability to remember the magic number 7, for example. We can only remember 7 plus or minus 2 items in a sequence, which means that we are inherently limited in our ability to remember things like passwords. Thus, if we are aware of that, we are going to be more inclined to use things like a password manager, a credential managing system. And similarly, we're more likely to build strong passwords because we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses. So it's kind of both knowledge and a skill.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. I'm going to flip-flop between, I think we've lost Kirsten. Oh, there you are, Kirsten. You're still there. Wonderful. What are your thoughts with regards to knowledge or skills, Kirsten? And I know you mentioned earlier on, you're not cybersecurity, savvy. I don't know. I'm not either. But what's one? If you had a magic wand, what are the top 2 things that you'd seek?
Selfishly, in the not-for-profit space, I think people need to have a focus on the not-for-profit. Like, we get left behind a fair bit in this space. We don't have the money often to put in the high levels of security required. And then we have a cohort of humans that came out of university to work with people, not computers. So they don't forget their passwords. They don't even know what a password manager is. And so having that skill gets missed, I guess, in the not-for-profits. People come to work for us having worked in the private sector and try to embed that private sector knowledge into our space, and it doesn't necessarily translate that well. Am I making sense?
Yes, you certainly are. And it's a very good point you're bringing up. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that in conjunction with yourself as well, Patrick. And I've always worked in corporate, Kirsten, so and I volunteer in the not-for-profit space, and certainly you're spot on there. The first thing, I guess, is around the constraints around resourcing and having to find other ways in being able to do things to accommodate for what you don't have. And I guess, what could we call that type of, that's actually being adaptable. There's probably some other words that I can't think of on top of my head now, but Patrick, what do you think? How could we describe that knowledge or skills?
Sorry, I was muted. Are we still talking about cyber literacy? The distribution of people's awareness, skills, capabilities?
We still are, actually.
Cool.
Just
okay.
at this point, yeah.
Well, I tried to sort of summarize it. I summarize that these days as under the category of cyber literacy. So there's a broad that's a broad umbrella term that is actually a step after digital literacy. So we should probably throw that up in there as well. First, you need digital literacy, because not everybody is, there's cyber savvy, and then there's like computer savvy and all these other terms. So first, you need to understand how a computer and networks and all that sort of digital stuff works. And then after that, you need to start understanding, okay, well, there's bad guys and there is malware and all that sort of stuff. But so it's a next level up, if I'm following what you're talking about, Kirsten, correctly.
So that was just, I think, Patrick, that was just at the very beginning. But what we just spoke about in the last minute was around the greater awareness, so people having a greater awareness around the not-for-profit space. In particular, the level of, I guess, sometimes constraints as compared to a private organisation that has, tools and resources.
Of course. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm on board. Yep,
That's
my
okay.
apologies.
So I'm
Power
looking
dynamics.
but what was that?
Power dynamics. That's an excellent point, and that applies across not just the not-for-profit. In fact, I've recently been consulting with a not-for-profit and been dealing with this. Power dynamics applies here, as in different organisations will have more or less power or bargaining power or presumed bargaining power when dealing with security vendors and with getting access to resources like training or cybersecurity hardware, infrastructure, whatever. It goes on, but it boils down fundamentally to power dynamics: who holds power, where, and how it's leveraged. And not-for-profits do cop it regularly in this space, and I've seen that firsthand, so I can sympathise, Kirsten.
Yeah. So just speaking of that, what I guess is it that we'd want to be able to be teaching with regards to, obviously, first of all, understanding and appreciating that the power dynamics is what you just described, Patrick. But what is it that the types of learning activities and skills that we want to be embedding in this curriculum to help people appreciate and understand that? What would you describe that? What kind of things we would need to?
I don't want to dominate again. I feel like I'm cheating, but what I've done in my tutorials when I taught it was we would do things like role play. Typically, people don't understand or struggle to understand or comprehend things unless they have been. There you go, brilliant. That's in someone. And vulnerability disclosure programs. That's cool too. That's very cool. Is it vulnerability or voluntary? Because that's two different.
That's vulnerability. I might have typed it wrong.
Because they're kind of related. But anyway, basically the gist of it is that people don't understand what I'm saying. They'll shut up. The difference is that people don't understand power dynamics, and they don't understand the presence and how it works unless they've been in they've had the opportunity to actually experience it and trial it out. Which connects to a concept called doxa, which I won't go into, but basically role playing, although it's a bit of a goofy sounding approach, you can take any kind of mechanism, as long as a person has the opportunity to go through the heuristic process of exploring for themselves and learning for themselves through practice what it is like to have less power than the other person in a negotiation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Kirsten, would you like to say something there?
No, I was just thinking that's great. I used to train people in crisis intervention and say to them all the time, role play, role play, role play. It's important to embed it build your neural pathways through role play. So
absolutely. So I guess thinking about what we've just spoken, for me, I'd be wanting to help people learn when you don't have something, how can you go and find the help that you need? So this is around establishing partnerships and relationships with other communities, organisations that can support or fill the gap, and learning to be able to do that. What do you think about that, Kirsten and Patrick?
I think that okay, I'll be quick and then I'll be quiet. I think that autonomy is actually the first step before looking to other organisations. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be looking for resources. What I'm saying is that a prerequisite to that, people need to have a sense of empowerment or personal autonomy to feel that they can, or that it's worthwhile, which connects to another concept, which I think hopefully is still covered in this subject, which is cyber indifference. People feel they're powerless, that there's no one that they can talk to, that there's nothing that they can do. So would be the first step. After that, people are more likely to go and pursue opportunities. Now I'm going to try not to dominate the conversation too much. Or anyone
Kerry, can I join? Sorry, I've just had difficulties during the conversations. My name is Elena. Can you see me or hear me?
No, Elena, but that's okay. You can just talk. That's fine.
That's okay. So nice meeting you, Christine and Patrick, and everybody who is in the room. So I think it's a very good conversation between knowledge and skills, and a lot of people who believe the human factors doesn't need anything related to computers, they're wrong. So a lot of things were happening in the world because people not educated, and we can see the human factors as a buzzword, and the people trying to do a lot of things without even understanding basic concepts of how computers, how digital world is working. So agree comes absolutely with Patrick. The several courses or certificates on the base level, even everybody who's involved now needs to do some upskilling on that. So to understand interactions between people and digital world and how that works. So that's a very basic step. And after that, human factors is also very broad. Human factors in disaster management, risk management, panicking, you need to have psychologists, you need to understand the culture. If the floods are in the rivers where indigenous people live, they have different perception. How can we help them? Or different other communities. So this kind of human factors in decision making, which close to my work, when they control the systems from the control. And we hear from Kirsten that the people do not even know about their passwords. When I talk to surgeons who are dealing with blood supply system, which is very critical in a theater, the same system, SCADA, it works for blood distribution in a theater, and water and gas, which goes to our houses. And it is essential for surgeon to have access always into that blood distribution, and they don't want to remember the passwords. So these kind of things, and who makes decision, how they make a decision. So that's very, very important, and how they interact. Anyway, I can talk a lot, but I don't want to dominate. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we've got one or 2 minutes to go. Let's talk a little bit about assessing some of these skills. So Patrick, just going back to the items at the very beginning, how would we look at assessing power dynamics?
Well, okay. Well, power, it's an assessment is a way of is a way of referring to it, but it's more of identification and recognition of it, mapping of it, I suppose.
Yep.
So I mean, this, it's not. Are you asking about the assessment of the skill of being able to recognize power dynamics?
Yes.
Because if that's okay, well, you can assess whether a person's comprehension and retention of that skill by getting them to analyze a case study and provide a map of the distribution of power within a social group. That's usually not that hard, vignette style.
Yeah. Oh, I said, Jay, you've got some great stuff coming in. Get an option to choose pathways, first year teaching, Okay, all right. Assessment, case studies, fantastic. Kirsten, what are your thoughts around assessments?
Well, I don't really have any thoughts around assessments. I'm not sure how you would assess it. I mean, most of the stuff that I train, we do on the job. So, yeah.
Yeah. What, I guess, for based on your experience and preferences from a personal perspective, Kirsten, how do you prefer to conduct assessments? Are you an exam type of person, or do you prefer, actually doing the particular task?
I'm very diverse, so I don't test well. So my preference is always real world, if you can. Yeah.
Practice in the real world scenario. Eleanor, what are your thoughts with regards to assessments to the items that you've referenced? You're just on mute, Eleanor. While we wait for that, Jayan, do you have, what are your views on assessing some of the skills and knowledge that we've spoken about today?
In terms of assessing the knowledge, as I said, we could conduct, like in terms of driver, we could conduct some events or activities that like specialize in different subfields of cyber or even like different subtopics.
Yeah.
And we see how our candidates are performing. Maybe like do some PDFs or maybe like arrange some discussions about some specific subtopics for cyber, just to filter the people who are really good at some, some subtopics or some specialized areas. That's how, you can get people who are really good at one stuff. Because I think we more have people who are all over the place,
I
Does that
think
make
I
any
got
sense?
some of the bits. I'm sure you are making sense, Jan, just you were breaking up a little bit, but maybe put it in the chat. What is conducting activities that specialize in the subtopics of cyber, but I'll let you put your salt and pepper in the chat. It was a little bit hard to capture that. I agree, Patrick, I love case studies, and I actually love conducting and doing certain things and exercises rather than the exam type of thing. I think it's much more rewarding to actually be doing that. And even, getting to a stage, also doing additional research to support those case studies as well is how I really learn well with regards to these.
Absolutely.
And also just coming back and teaching someone else what I've actually just learned and having my assessment, what I teach others is how I would like to be assessed.
The jigsaw process the jigsaw methodology is excellent. I actually have one other suggestion while I remember. One of the things, basically practically every workshop, lab or tutor or whatever it was called, that I did, I would have students trial it out, as in have a go at themselves. So I think we talked about, just awareness, self-awareness, but also there's awareness and understanding of the attacker. So in some cases, I would get my students to do things like actually design or sketch out an idea, like a rough idea of how a cyber threat actor would execute the attack. What they could do, or make it more like, or make it like, how could, like, what's it, like, get them to design a phishing page or something. But by doing that, the actual assessment test boils down to being able to, you can see by reverse engineering, I guess, what they produce, you can see whether or not the person has understood the concepts based on the quality and the detail that's in the output from the student.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Leanne, could you give me access to be able to mute the room? You just guys got a bit noisy as we were finishing our conversation, but we have had a brilliant conversation. Kirsten and Patrick and Jayant and Ellen, our contribution. We've got all the detail in the chat. So I know we're running out of time, Leanne, so I can just give you a quick summary of what we've sort of come up with here very quickly. With regards to job-ready skills, we've basically been talking about, there's some good points raised around awareness of the non-profit organisations, and also really understanding their constraints. But Patrick really described it very well, and that was around understanding power dynamics against different organisations and their bargaining power that they actually have, an understanding of that. We also spoke about autonomy, making sure that that's like a number one priority, having a sense of empowerment. Eleanor brought up basic digital skills because we need to be able to understand there's interactions, both human and digital, that need to be involved. There's also a level of understanding around psychology, cultures and different perceptions, and understanding and appreciating that. With regards to, and Jayant brought up some other really good points, you can see that in the chat. Around assessments, there's a commonality around learning by doing and being assessed through case studies, and actually conducting certain activities as compared to doing exams and tests. So that was an overall summary, Leanne.
Your
Thanks, Anita. Thanks. I just turned on the mic. Look, we had a really good discussion as well, focused on knowledge, and we also dabbled into the transferable space as well. But what I would love to do is just pick a few people, just some key highlights as well, because we've had some great conversations. So so in the knowledge side of things, I'm just going to throw it all to Jeff. If you could just elaborate on your key aspects and what you've just mentioned, because I think that's really key.
All right. Can everybody hear me? There we go. Thank you. A couple of key knowledge areas I thought we need to get in front of is the generative AI and the synthetic ethics that's going to be created from the generative AI. And there's a cybersecurity risk to this. There's that is new, especially around prompts that people are dropping in privacy information. And then we haven't even seen the attacks that are coming from the bad guys yet. It's only the beginning. And so there's going to be a whole new range of things that are going to come. So when you're talking about, you're telling your people about scams, there's a whole new things that are coming that you have no idea, especially when you get into synthetics. So the big thing from our community is around voice. They're going to be able to replicate the voice. So it's going to be you calling these people and their data. So there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be educated on that. We have to talk to those with that as well. I was on the phone with someone last night about that. And then around secure design, and it's not just technical, it's also product. So there's a cybersecurity part, and then there's also society part, right? So how do you design a product that you don't just for the top 1% of people are going to use it, right? How do we design a product that everybody can move up, right? And if I go back to generative AI, at one point I didn't bring up, there's a study in the IAN study, Stanford and MIT, that said that the largest improvements of people using generative AI are non-technical. And that is a great news. And so you, as an employer, if you can see that your least technical person, people are going to make the biggest improvements, you're going to be excited about that. And that's not about losing jobs, it's about improving productivity. And that's how economies get better, is productivity improves, and that's what it's about. So teaching those, having those skills, helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeff, for that as well. And Jane also mentioned about the foundations of cybersecurity, and I think just want to elaborate on that a little bit as well. I think that's where I think every single one, every single individual, doesn't matter whether you're in industry, community, resident, etc., there is some level of basic baseline cybersecurity skills or knowledge that you need to know to build some kind of human firewall if we are going to, you know, ambitiously reach that 2030 target as well. I'm just going to throw it over to Jane, if you don't mind. I think the things that you mentioned, sorry, Fiona, you mentioned was just fabulous. And I just wondering if you could share that with the group as well.
In terms of graduate readiness.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that we find with graduates is that they're very technical and their communication style is very focused on the technical. Yet, when you're working in enterprise, you're paying for the technical skills and the cybersecurity protection. You need to be able to communicate using, you know, enterprise, you know, wording and you know, and the vocabulary that the business understands, the leaders understand, and in particular, creating incident response plans, communication plans, using templates, because as Wendy said, you know, there's communicating in person. The verbal communication is something that we kind of that has regressed during lockdown, and we've sort of gravitated towards online tools instead. So we need to go back to being able to vocalize what the risk is. Risk assessments are very important to business, being able to do that. As a graduate, being able to articulate what the risk is, the impact and likelihood, and having templates to do that. You know, not being on your own, using AI, you know, to do that, and having those skills.
And that template, it's not only identifying the risk, but how to mitigate.
Yes.
Right. So that's skill.
Internet facing, non-internet facing, what are the options, and being able to do that securely, because you don't want to put all of your, you know, business intel into a generative AI. So yeah, being able to do it securely.
Any other comments?
No, I think that's very helpful.
Fantastic. So, so one of the key highlights so far as well, just adding to that as well, and I think there was conversations on our end to have learning activities that mimic, that kind of simulate the workplaces as well, working under pressure in that aspect. I've got some things, working within teams, communication, all the aspects of different types of communication, oral, writing reports, proposals as well for senior executives as well, because there are different reports for different cohorts of individuals as well, being able to do that. And I think one of the key things is, so working under pressure, resilience is important as well, perseverance as well. I think in a high pressure environment, I think there is opportunities that I think we need to develop that in our students or our staff members as well at the same time. It's not an area where you go in, you think you can just, walk in, walk out in a sense, but being able to work under pressure and being able to develop that and train, students up, or even staff members up in that space as well, is critically as important in that. I think I've jotted quite a lot of notes down as well, and it's quite a lot of great discussions. I'm just going to open to the floor. Are there any other comments or any other questions that we have from either side as well?
No.
Okay. All right. So Wendy? Yeah.
I think the other thing that would be really good for students to learn is that the concept might stay the same, but they have to be flexible about how their organisation needs to deal with this information, and that when they move from place to place, they need to know what their stakeholders need in that structure, and how to find that out, I think, is really crucial skill set.
So absolutely. So yeah, so contextualization, understanding the people, I think understanding how people work as well, and respecting, I think we've mentioned, that diversity, and everyone's all different as well in that space. So I think building that relationship up is important as well. Sorry, I forgot. So you mentioned something about human-computer interaction and how humans interact with computers and systems as well, and understanding that behavioral thing. I think that's an element of importance as well. And you've mentioned obviously the design and product design as well, and how that works. And I think that's important for human factors in cybersecurity subject or course to be able to understand that it does cover quite a broad area as well. And that's something that we're very keen to look at as well when we're going out to develop our students, graduates, professionals in that area as well. Okay, I'm just looking at time. This is such a rich discussion. I've got a lot of notes taken down as well. Jane, can you move to the next one? Look, the key thing, so we've only got around 5 minutes left. What I'm kind of keen to do at the moment, this isn't, a discovery kind of, co-design session as well. And this is something that I'm sure every single institution, industry are keen to collaborate and partner up as well. We have, so I'm not, it's not just Trobe. All universities, all education providers are in the same boat as well. So as I mentioned earlier, we have master's undergraduate programs, but we also have short courses which are designed for professionals who want to reskill. We have a lot of industry partnerships in that space as well. What we take from this is an approach, and we do want to partner up, and we do have existing partnerships. We want to make sure that the students, professionals that come to learn about cybersecurity, right? One, we know these people actually care. They want to protect, their family members, their organizations, etc. But we want to make sure that they get the latest updates and trends so that they are ready, whether they're working part-time on the job, etc., that they are ready to protect the organization, their communities and societies as well. So we've got a lot of great ideas and pointers here, and I'll look at summarizing all of this. And what we want to do is probably share this with WiCyS as well, and that can go out at the same time. But also with our particular subject as well, it's an opportunity, and I'm continuing to look for people out there as well who want to give guest lectures, who want to give some ideas. If there is any opportunities that you want to have input into our courses, the way we do things, even do guest lectures or even career, advice, etc., we're all open to that. And at the same time, back and forth as well, whether you take students, whether there are opportunities, because every single university who will have a cybersecurity discipline will have a research center, will have a critical mass, etc. We are all, there's not one university that I don't know of who actually does have the education programs, but actually do want to protect our communities as well. We do want to make sure that we serve our communities at the same time. So I'm just opening that up at the same time as well for that, and such rich discussions. Just the next one at the moment, Jane, thank you. And look, it's, you know, it's been an hour at the moment, rich discussions, and I'm getting to know so many new people in this space as well. And we want to build up this partnership going forward. And there's a lot of people, you know, working in that cybersecurity space, wanting to support each other at the same time. And I do thank you for your time. I know it's early in the morning as well, but I do thank you for everyone at the same time as well. And we'll hope that, you know, we'll have future discussions, future ideas and collaborations in this space as well.